Are you taking it to the bank that Mike McCarthy is going to call plays right now?
I'm not, because I've not been told that. I was told that's to be determined at this point. Could it happen? Sure, it could happen. Maybe it will happen, but I haven't been told that just yet. But clearly I think he'll have more say into the offense than he's had in his first 3 years with the team. And I'm more curious about what's this offense going to look like. And I know you guys have talked about it before. Is it going to be what Mike ran in Green Bay? Is it going to be what the Cowboys have done here for years under Kellen Moore and Scott Linehan and all these guys? Or a combination of the two? There's a lot of things that they'll have to solve here this offseason.
How confident would you be that Dak could run that offense that Mike McCarthy called in Green Bay?
I'm confident in that. I mean, it's not brain surgery. No offense to Broadus' Green Bay ties, but geez, they didn't reinvent the wheel up there.
So how much of the Kellen Moore departure is mutual, or was that more of a true firing?
Yeah, no, I mean, it's easy to say, like, oh, yeah, it's mutual. The fact that he landed a job so quickly, to me, indicates it was mutual, that he was ready to go. They were okay with him. The Chargers, the way I understand it, asked for permission to talk to him last week when there was first wind that he might not be back or things might not be stable here. So they put in a request to talk to him. The fact that he got this job announced within, was it 12 hours? I don't even know.
Yeah.
Tells you to me that this was mutual. He was ready for a fresh start, a new challenge, and the Cowboys were ready to start off in a new direction from Kellen Moore. To me, again, from the Cowboys, and Broadus, you've talked about this before, I know with the guys there, and to me in conversations, when you're the owner, when you're the coach, you already have 5 names in your desk drawer of who you want to be the next guy.
Yep.
You got to hope Mike McCarthy already had those names going.
You know, speaking of names, is there anyone that maybe you've heard of, Todd? I know we've been kicking around some names as well, but maybe some guys that you think they could be linked to.
Yeah, the obvious ones, right? Brian Schottenheimer, he's in the building. Ben McAdoo was in the building last year, a long history with McCarthy up in Green Bay. The guy that I'm intrigued about for a couple of different reasons, and one is his ties to Dak. 2, you'd be weakening a division rival. Is Brian Johnson, the Eagles quarterback coach.
That.
He's been up for a couple coordinator gigs, and Dak has spoken highly of him when we've talked about him to him about Johnson in the past. He worked with him at Mississippi State. We've seen what Jalen Hurts has done in his 2 years as the Eagles starter with him as the quarterback's coach. So I think that's a guy that you at least investigate to find out what it's all about. Those would be the names I would think. You know, I don't see a Cliff Kingsbury. That would be a Jerry special to get the guy who's making $8 million as a head coach, and you pay him $150,000 as the offensive staff. The Belichick deal and how he did with Patricia and Joe Judge to a degree up there. I don't think that's going to happen. And all these coaches also have to weigh how long of a future does Mike McCarthy have with the Cowboys coaches to make this a palatable place to come to. If you think he's on a 1-year deal, you might be better off staying where you are if you have a job, or you know you're taking a bit of a gambit to say, okay, I believe in Coach McCarthy and what the Cowboys here, and this is going to be something that lasts beyond 1 or 2 years.
Hey, Todd, when you mentioned Johnson and stuff like that, I mean, that's a really good get on your part. And I'm curious, though, do you interview him with the thought of him being the play caller? And if you're Philadelphia, do you try and talk him out of it because they're telling him you're not going to be the play caller down there, man? You just need to sit with us and ride this thing out. Or how do you think that would play out? I'm sure one team is going to try and talk him out of it, you know, especially if you feel like that McCarthy's going to call the plays.
Right. So let's look at it right now. Like in the hierarchy of what Philly's structure is, you know, Sirianni's the head coach, but he doesn't call plays. Steichen.
Yeah.
He calls the plays. So Johnson's at least third. He would come to Dallas and, okay, you might not call plays, but you're at least second on the list of who we'd all blame for a bad offensive season. So that's better than being third, I guess. Or maybe it's not being better being third if you're going to catch some of the heat. But, yeah, the Eagles will try and talk him into staying, and I'm sure it'll be a tough get for any team that would try and get him because of what they have in Philadelphia and what if they win a Super Bowl, all that sort of stuff. And, again, if you're looking at the Cowboys from an outside perspective, how long are you going to be here? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
Is this, to me, 2023 is the way this is shaping up, how we're looking at it is Mike McCarthy is going to get the opportunity potentially that Jason Garrett never got. Jason wanted to call plays again in his final year with the Cowboys, but was not given that opportunity. It looks like Mike could be given that opportunity to call plays in what would be his last chance to go out with a fight, if we want to look at it that way. Whereas Jason had Kellen Moore as his play caller and couldn't go out. So, if it goes this way, it's given Mike McCarthy the chance to show what he can do as a play caller. And look, we all railed on Dak about the interceptions, right?
Right.
If you look at Mike McCarthy's 2 years with Favre in Green Bay, his first 2 years with him, he threw 33 combined interceptions. In 2005, the year McCarthy got there, 29 picks. In all of his time together with Aaron Rodgers, he topped 10 interceptions just twice and none after his third year as a starter. So part of me wonders if Mike's the quarterback guru, why wasn't he involved in getting this thing fixed this year?
Sure.
Just saying.
Yeah. Hey, Todd, okay, you know me, I'm going to come up with reasons why the coaching thing, the hires, or excuse me, the releases of these coaches is kind of weird because I feel like there's McCarthy guys going out the door and I feel like they're Jerry Jones guys going out the door. Are we, and I know you guys were asking some questions the other day about, and Jerry's relationship with Mike and, how they, the tough decisions. Am I seeing a pattern here or am I reading too much into that?
There may be a pattern there. I think a lot of it, honestly, and Mike mentioned it in part of his answer, he used the term economical. There's economics behind this too. To my understanding is Joe Philbin was among the highest paid offensive line coaches in the NFL, more than $2 million a year. Skip Pete was among the highest paid running backs coaches in the NFL as well. The rough figure in that is I want to say $500,000 and above when you look at what running back coaches make. So, and Jerry didn't want to have 29 coaches on staff.
Yeah.
He brought that number to us. Was it the start of training camp where he mentioned the number of coaches on the contract?
Yeah.
That's not something he wanted. So I would almost say it's more economical. And look, Kellen was making $2.1 million as the offensive coordinator. Well, guess what? Jerry doesn't have to pay him $2.1 now. I don't know what he's making from the Chargers, but there's some offset there that he'll be saving some coin that he can put into some other coaches going forward. But some of this stuff is like, okay, Kyle Valero is not back as the analytics assistant wide receivers, whatever his title was. I mean, some of this stuff, to use a Jerry term, is fungible, right? Mm. I mean, now George Edwards, that's a pretty big loss in my mind for what he was able to do with not just Micah, but Van Der Esch the last 2 years. No one wants to give the kid credit. Van Der Esch the last 2 years has been a really good player, and I think the Cowboys will make a mistake to not keep him as a free agent.
Good points from Todd Archer here on 105.3 The Fan. Making the playoffs 2 years in a row is no small feat. Do you feel like internally the Cowboys are excited about long-term Mike McCarthy, or is he kind of coaching and calling plays for his job over the next 12 to 24 months?
I would say he's coaching for his job over the next 12 to 24 months because we've heard nothing about a possible extension for him, right? Even though he's made the playoffs here these last 2 years, I would have a feeling that would be something that would have been broached by the national guys as a possibility this past weekend. We've not heard that. Jerry has not been a guy that, has extended the coaches with multiple years left in his contract. Remember, the 2 times he extended Garrett came when Garrett was on the last year of his deal, and he timed it out perfectly by making the playoffs both of those 2 times and getting to the divisional round. So they always felt they were building something. I think he's coaching for his job as probably he entered 2022 coaching for his job as well. But he signed through 2024. Look, 2 years in a row, they've kept Dan Quinn from going out into the head coaching market. We don't need to read any tea leaves here, do we? Of who would be the first guy on the list as the Cowboys' next head coach?
Pretty obvious.
Yeah. Hey, Todd, I know you and I have had these conversations before, and I think I'm remembering it the right way. You kind of look as the offensive line coach as really the like, other than the coordinator, is really the most important hire for the coaches, the assistant coaches. Did I get that right with you? Yeah, absolutely.
The three main coaches on your staff are your OC, your DC, and your offensive line coach. Like the rest of them, they obviously serve a function, but those three guys have to be the tone setters of the entire operation.
Todd,
I just walked myself into a corner now. Where are you going, brother?
No, I'm just saying, though, to me, I'm thinking about, because like I said, I think that how Mike McCarthy could be as a play caller potentially could hinge on who his offensive line coach is. That's what I'm saying. I'm saying of all the hires that they might have, this might be the most important one they've got.
I would agree with you. Yes, and I mentioned James Campen's name last week. My understanding is that Carolina is not letting him out.
They're not letting him out.
He's going
to
remain there.
Yeah.
He's remaining as Frank Reich's guy there, and he's quality offensive line coach who was making only, honestly, slightly less than what Philbin was making here. But yeah, that's a huge role they'll have to fill, and I wonder if they do look internally there, if Lunda Wells becomes the candidate as their offensive line coach. If you guys have probably discussed that, but
yeah,
there were people in that building that thought Lunda was maybe the best line coach they had in the building anyway, and did a good job with the tight ends the last few years with what they've had. So, and he has offensive line background. That might be a possibility if the Cowboys were to look that route. But I have not heard where McCarthy's going in terms of names or who he's talked with, or if he's even talked to anybody yet about an O-line or OC or running backs, senior linebackers, whatever the heck else they got to fill in that staff.
Todd, you had an awesome article about the options that the Cowboys have here with Dak in the future, and we got the new salary cap numbers. They're still going to be about $7.4 million over, so they'll have to restructure some deals, and maybe they do with Dak. But do you think we're getting closer to them maybe moving on from Dak after this year if they're not able to accomplish the ultimate goal?
I think we'll have that answer, what their plan is, if they restructure him. Because if you were to do the full restructure and you'd get $22 million in room, and man, wouldn't that be great? Everybody's going to start connecting Cowboys to the high-end free agents, and they're going to sign none of them, and everybody would be disappointed again. It's just the same off-season cycle we go through. But you'd now be adding so much dead money to that deal that after the contract voids after 2024, that you're kind of stuck. So if they restructure them, then that tells you that Dak's their guy, or extend it. That tells you everything you need to know. If they don't restructure them and don't extend them, it wouldn't surprise me if you see them draft a quarterback somewhat legitimately in the early rounds, not a Ben DiNucci at number 225 or whatever the heck they got DiNucci in the 7th round a couple years ago. Because there's two cycles. This league is all cycles. It's, everybody's praising Philadelphia for what they're able to do and go out and trade for A.J. Brown. They're partly able to do that, and maybe mostly able to do that, because Jalen Hurts is on a rookie contract, like as a second-round pick. So, it makes it easier. The Cowboys absolutely can go do that, and they had a guy in the building, I know, with Amari Cooper making that kind of money. They just didn't think he was worth it. The Cowboys can go out and trade for whatever receiver you want and move money around and do all that stuff. I just don't think they will. But, yeah, Dak is as critical as 2023 is to Mike McCarthy. It's as critical to Dak Prescott and his future. And it seems like yesterday we were just talking about all that contract stuff with Dak, and now it's all coming back. It's going to come back to the fore again with him. And I'm tired. That gave me tired head back then. I mean, even more tired head going forward.
Well, we appreciate you tracking it. It is one of those interesting things that's going to inform on their plans for their other stuff. But, Todd, I just assumed they'd restructure, because if they don't, that's not a playoff team next year, is it? I mean, that's like $25 or $30 million of cap space that restructuring would free up.
It would free up $22 million from Dak. And look, I just tweeted this stuff out. They'll restructure Gallup, and that'll make everybody mad, but that's the design of the contract. That'll get you about $7.5-ish million. They could do Zach Martin and DeMarcus Lawrence. They get you about $16 million there. So you have $45 million in like a second and a half that we just did. To me, all of the money that they're going to create is going to be to try and re-sign CeeDee Lamb or maybe even Diggs, because they have to start staggering these contracts with these guys. They can't have them all come up at the same time.
Yeah.
I mean, it's impossible to do. And I know you got the fifth-year option on Lamb, but I'd rather get him done early and let Diggs maybe play it out and put the franchise tag on him after next season. But the Dak thing is what is going to drive this whole thing, because quarterback contracts drive the salary cap.
Hey, Todd, in the last couple minutes we got you here. Okay, how about going the other direction with Tyron Smith and Ezekiel Elliott? Look into your crystal ball and try and just make the best guess you can on that.
Yeah, like with a month to go in the season, I was thinking that they were going to do the DeMarcus Lawrence trick with him and pay cut him, but guarantee him some money and bring him back. But, the last 6 games, he didn't average more than 3.6 yards a carry. So I'm now wondering if there's going to be a running back room without Ezekiel Elliott. And then, because you're going to need the money for Pollard either through the franchise tag or a long-term deal. You guys had $20 million tied up in your running back room cap-wise last year. You really want to do that again? That probably doesn't make the most sense. And then with Tyron, I mean, you drafted Tyler Smith to be your left tackle of the future. He largely played that spot the entire year. Tyron has been hurt every year since 2015. I just wonder if they go in a different direction and cut ties with one of the best left tackles that they've ever had. No one's told me what their plan is yet. Mike McCarthy said they've not had a personnel meeting as of when did we talk to Mike? Last Thursday.
Yeah.
So, those two guys, right now, if you had to put any money down on something, I would say neither one of those guys would be the team in 2023.